The Ohio State Buckeyes, they came, they saw, they took down the number 3 team in college football on the road for one of the best victories of the season and very much put everybody back on the program that is the Buckeyes looking like a contender for the national championship once again. What's up, Kim folks? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Thank you for watching the #1 college football show wherever you are. If you're not a subscriber to the channel, think about it. Give us a thought. We have a good time. We upload segments all the time when we do these live shows whenever we think that they're worth doing. And I thought the end of Ohio State, Penn State, in one of the biggest games of the season, heading into Tuesday's reveal of the selection committee's college football playoff rankings, is a great place to start. But this game, I really thought, didn't really go as well as we had hoped it might from a back and forth standpoint, but from play on the field, we'd seen some things in this game that we had never seen, well, in back-to-back circumstances, particularly like the first half. We had Will Howard fumble the football on the way to what is going to look like a back-breaking rushing touchdown, and it's touchback to Penn State. They can't do much with that. We see Davison Igbinosun, who is the most penalized defender at Ohio State, get called on a holding call. On the very next play, a play that looks like it's going to go for a TD, snatches out of the hands of the wide receiver to get the touchback for Ohio State. I got to see this defense make plays when it absolutely had to make plays, and that bend, don't break, we're not going to give up explosive play mentality that Jim Knowles' 4-2-5 is famous for, was really on display today. Like, I'm looking at the stats for Drew Aller. 12 of 20, 146 yards, a pick, 2 sacks, right? Tyler Warren does what he does. Three rushes for 47 yards, and then 4 catches for 47 yards. You know that this man is going to touch the football. They got him in Wildcat. They got him blocking. They got him out in patterns. At one point, I'm going, all right, just take Drew out and let Tyler be the quarterback because that feels like what you want to do anyway, Andy Kotelnicki. And as much as I really enjoy Kotelnicki's offense, this game felt like one where they were just being a little too cute sometimes. And when they weren't being cute, they were handing the ball to Katron Allen or Nick Singleton, but in plays for which Ohio State was going to drop 8 into the box, and they're going to tackle in the open field. What you needed to do, and what I just did not get to see, was throwing the football downfield, man. Like, you got to take shots. You got to find Trey Wallace deep downfield. You have to make these Ohio State's defenders, the secondary in particular, back off of you and let Drew Aller do what he does well. Everybody has said that guy does well since high school. He throws a really great deep ball, and I didn't see any of that in Andy Kotelnicki's offensive game plan, and this is a dude that was brought in expressly to get the ball to the playmakers at Penn State and to create explosive plays. That is what James Franklin wanted. I think you wanted this offense to resemble something like 2021 Pittsburgh with Kenny Pickett and Jordan Addison, where if you got to feed the ball to Tyler Warren 17 times for over 200 yards to win the football game, that's what you're going to do. That's what they get against USC. I kept asking, when are you going to make 44 the guy that is either going to win this game or lose it for you? And when they went for it, looking to go for a score that probably ties the ball game late, and you get that 4th down stop. Lathan Ransom does a great job of beating Tyler Warren to the spot. Drew Aller didn't have anywhere else to go, man. And in a game where it felt like all the momentum was on Penn State's side, they're at Beaver Stadium. They have 111,000 people in there to see them catch this L from Ohio State. And yet and still, James Franklin can't get the big game won. He falls to an abysmal 1-10 against Ohio State, and he's something like 1-14 against top 5 programs. And really, this has been the bane of Ryan Day's existence too. He's 500 in these top 5 games, 8-8. Now he's 9-8 with a really great win, a gritty win, the kind of win I think many Ohio State fans will take. Was it perfect? No, but you did what you needed to do, and you learned some things, right? You learned that good Will Howard and bad Will Howard will show up in the same day. The same guy that will throw a pick 6 where you're going, oh, baby, no, what you're looking at is a guy that will roll to his left, throw back to his right, and find a receiver downfield. I saw this Ohio State team go down 10-0 to Penn State. I saw Penn State give up 14 unanswered with stupid penalties and stupid plays. We got unsportsmanlike conduct plays, right? We got encroachment from your best defender in Abdul Carter. You are giving the Ohio State Buckeyes a cookie. And if you give the Buckeyes a cookie, they're going to rob your house blind. That's just how that works, okay? They're going to take you for everything you got if you let them in the door. And we saw this. Like, this is a game that Oregon found a way to win in very much the same fashion that Ohio State would have found a way to win had it been them. Penn State could have found a way to win and prove to us that they're one of the 4 best teams in college football, but they were a soft number 3 as it was. They will not be number 3 on Sunday for me, for the AP, certainly not for the selection committee. The thing for Penn State fans, though, is you're probably going to make the playoff, right, if you go 11-1. They'll probably put you in there as one of the 12 best teams in the sport. But this game was not about making the college football playoff. Hell, this game really wasn't even about making the Big Ten championship, although a win probably gets you closer to that than not. It was about demonstrating to the fan base and to college football as a whole that Penn State is ready to compete for national championships. And we ain't seen that from them, man. Like, it's really disheartening because Penn State's at that Oklahoma plateau, right? Where you can get there. Not even Oklahoma plateau, because Oklahoma will win the Big 12 championship now and again before making the college football playoff. But you're at this plateau where we know you're going to win 9-10 games with James Franklin as your head coach. Book it. Doesn't matter that your schedule doesn't really have anybody on it. Your best win to date is still Illinois. We want to believe that we are means something. And in these games, it just hasn't. In a year where you don't play Ohio State and Michigan, and you get Ohio State at home, it has to fall into place for you. It has to. Otherwise, what are we talking about with Penn State except filling out a bracket? And I don't necessarily want to see Penn State not in the playoff, but I don't want them to be there as a placeholder to fill out a bracket for a team like, say, Ole Miss, we'll talk about a little bit later on, put something on paper, or Miami, who feels like a soft number 5, but then they go down 28-17, they come back and they win that game in really great fashion. We'll talk about them a little bit later on. I learned a lot more about Quinshon Judkins, and that, along with Caleb Downs, ends up being your 2 best portal pulls, period, this cycle, man. Like, Caleb Downs, you heard Joel Klatt compare him to Troy Polamalu, which is very high praise, but, I mean, the dude had 107 tackles as a true freshman and was a starter at Alabama for Nick Saban his last year. Yeah, he might actually be better than Troy Polamalu when it's all said and done. Quinshon Judkins, who had a lot of tread on those tires still left, comes in, and he is your gotta-have-it guy. He's making tremendous plays, running through people, making big blocks, 14 rushes for 95 yards. I think Quinshon Judkins is the guy that many of us wanted TreVeyon Henderson to become. And TreVeyon Henderson's a great player and a home run hitter. But in money downs, when you gotta have it behind an offensive line that is down basically 2 starters, you're going to Quinshon Judkins. I mean, you slide Donovan Jackson from left guard to left tackle because, well, you've seen enough of Mikowski and you don't like it. However, there were these places where I'm going, wait, that's Donovan Jackson head up against Abdul Carter. That's a guard. Like, guards don't do that, dog. Like, guards guard the basket. You know what I'm saying? Guards do not come out to the top of the key and guard the point guard, as Joel was pointing out. Like, it's when you get that much space, you got to cover. It gets real difficult when these dudes are fast and they are timing you up and they're just turning the corner on you. But you know what? He showed up. You know, he's playing position because they need him to do it or they're not going to have an opportunity to win. That was impressive. You got 177 rush yards out of a patchwork offensive line. That is impressive. You got playmaking out of Cody Simon. You got playmaking out of Davison Igbinosun. You got playmaking out of Denzel Burke, who people are, you know, I'm hard on him, but when you call yourself the best corner in college football, I expect you to purport yourself like the best corner in college football. I'm not at all taken aback by what we saw from Penn State. All I can say is I don't know where you go from here. Like, that defense is good. They've had back-to-back pick sixes, which is free money if you're the offense, right? They've given you 6 points. They've given you 6 points. And you can't do much at all with that. That's terrible. If you're Tom Allen, you're that defense, you're watching guys like Kobe King hang it all out for you. You're watching guys like Tyler Tracy go get it for you. Like, I felt really bad for that defense because they deserve a better offense. But I can say that about a number of teams this year, Oklahoma being at the top of the list. By the way, Oklahoma got to win. East Maine put up 665 yards of offense. We'll talk about them a little bit later on, but that's an example of what I'm talking about here. I can't have my quarterback going 12 of 20 for 146 with a pick and no TDs against Ohio State when we're the number 3 team in the country. I can't have losses when I know that I got an easy 6 from my defense. I can't have that. I have to have those folks who know that this gift is not going to be there all the time. I know it's a day game, and I know how much people don't really like those with these top 5 matchups, but this one lived up to the hype, man. Like, at one point, I'm like, is Ohio State going to dig themselves out of this? And they did. They dug themselves out of a 10-point deficit, and they won the game by 7. They had a tremendous third quarter that we need to go and study, because we know that Penn State and Ohio State had been outstanding in the third quarter against opponents, right? But one of those came out the gate and got 3 points on the board. So it becomes 17, right, to 13. And then it's attrition, right? It's, can you go get field goals at the end of, drives where you're supposed to be getting touchdowns? That is what Ohio State was able to do. Penn State goes for it. I think that was the right call to make. I think that you got to find a way to get Tyler Warren open, and that is on Andy Kotelnicki, you ask me. I'm also thinking that Chip Kelly's just going to keep running the football in ways that not all of us are on board with. I kind of want to see him put those 4 wide receivers out there and make them your focal point, but it worked for them. Jeremiah Smith did not have a vintage game, but he had a good game. 4 catches, 55 yards to lead all receivers. Brandon Ennis had, I thought, pretty good game. He didn't fumble a punt that he was supposed to catch, or muff a punt. He had 2 catches for 33 yards. Jelani Thurman had the bobbling Featherstones catch. I really like that for him. And Emeka Egbuka turns out to still be Emeka Egbuka, man. 3 catches, 31 yards, and a TD. That dude needs to get drafted in the first round. I don't know who would take him and why, because he does a little bit of everything. So I don't know where he fits in the NFL. I just know that he does, and I know that he's first-round talent. Reminds me a lot of Laviska Shenault, for folks that remember that dude at Colorado. Like, Emeka can do anything you want him to do. Where Jeremiah is going to be that guy that is just taking the top off the defense and going to Megatron some plays that other guys, mere mortals, would not be able to play. Outstanding win for Ohio State, 20-13. They now have a loss to the number 1 team in the country and a win against the number 3 team in the country. That's probably going to vault them into the number 2 spot in the College Football Playoff Selection Committee rankings. But we'll see. And the reason I say that is Georgia's got the best win, right? They go on the road at night at Texas. They beat the number 2 team in the country, and they vault themselves back into this, right? I'm also looking at this going, okay, you lost to Alabama. Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. Alabama lost to Tennessee. So if we're talking about losses and what they mean, you're going to put Ohio State there on strength of who they've beaten and who they lost to. We'll take a look at strength of schedule all the way down, but, the Big Ten has not been as strong as the SEC. So I would not be shocked to find out that it's Georgia behind Ohio State, that 3 spot, with Oregon in that 1 spot. It really feels like right now, if things continue as they are, the Big Ten is going to get the number 1 seed in the College Football Playoff Selection Committee's final rankings, because check this out. Indiana's still undefeated. They got Michigan State. We expect them to beat Michigan State. They could be undefeated by the time they play Ohio State. Ohio State beats an Indiana that's going to be a top 10 team by then, if not top 5. They're going to go in that thing against Oregon, knowing that one of those 2 teams who we think is going to be undefeated, is Oregon's got a down Michigan today. They're going to be playing for the 1 seed, and both of those teams probably going to get in. Same thing is true if Indiana manages to upset Ohio State at the shoe, which would be tremendous, but I just don't see that happening. The one thing that I want to leave Ohio State fans with on this is you still haven't played a complete game of football from a team that we know was built not to win the national championship, but to win it in style. Like, this roster, top down, it's there. You're supposed to run over people on the way to being dominant, right? I don't think it is hyperbole to say you tried to put together a team that could not just win this thing, but be rival teams as one of the great teams of all time, given the talent that is on it, given what you went to go get. Is Will Howard going to be the guy that gets you there or doesn't get you there? It's looking that way, right? It's looking like quarterback is really going to have more to say about Ohio State's season than any other position, which feels kind of, because you know what they have everywhere else. But if Will Howard's going to throw pick sixes in games that you can win, how much better would you be if he played a perfect football game? And he has been really good. He's been one of the most efficient passers in the sport. And I love the stat from True Media. He and Dylan Gabriel throw to wide open targets more than anybody else in the sport. They are throwing to guys that are butt naked open 44 and 42% of the time, which means your offensive play caller, Chip Kelly, Will Stein, are doing outstanding jobs of getting you clean looks, kind of like Brock Purdy with Kyle Shanahan with the Niners last year, not necessarily this year. If they're butt naked open, you should be able to complete passes. That's the problem. And I think that is what Ohio State fans are keying on. It's like, this isn't as sharp as it should be, given what we have seen from these wide receivers out in patterns. You need to be better, but you can still get there. There's still a measure. There's I'm a Formula One fan, a race myself. There's time on the track. Like there's lap time out there for Ohio State to go get, right? You are not close to peaking. You're not close to being as good as you possibly can be. And you weren't close to being as good as you possibly could be against Oregon. You lost that game by 1 point. Will Howard slides when he probably shouldn't have, and it was on the road. This game is basically going to be in your second home if you get to play Oregon again at Lucas Oil in Indianapolis, right? That's a neutral site. You know what you're doing there. You just got to take care of business the rest of the way. So that is Ohio State getting a 20-13 victory against Penn State. Game that I want to talk about because we put it in the headline with the instant reaction. Again, if you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing. We're at 115,000 subscribers, very close to 116,000 subscribers. It would be great if you were one of us, so just click that subscribe button if you're here.